Hello and welcome to a new Advanced Wars by Web replay commentary. I'm your commanding officer, Medium D Tank. And today we have a new entry in my Shadows Chase You Endlessly series. A excellent map that has no metaphorical or poetic significance whatsoever in its name. And so now let's look at a replay from 3 years ago. There will be a method to my madness as to why I'm showing Shadows videos now, but you'll have to wait and see. I definitely meant to do some of these videos a couple years ago when these games actually happened, and in leading up to the Quack Cup that featured only Shadows maps, but again, you'll have to wait for that. So, if you recall anything about my last video, which you probably don't because I released it a little while ago, but the last video showed an Andy versus Andy ladder match on this map, and I basically did an Andy all-in, taking advantage of his Super CO power to do a big HQ push, along with stealth spill from the airport. This game is going to be a little more conventional in a lot of ways. I actually played this ladder game at the same time as the previous one. I had wanted to play as Kindle in one game and Andy in the other to try to get a feel as to who I liked better on this map. Now that Rachel has been banned in Tier 3 on this map for quite a while. She was very, very good, of course. So a lot of times you'll get a CO triangle of Kindle beating Andy, Andy maybe beating Rachel, Rachel maybe beating Kindle on other maps, but it's very map dependent. And here, Rachel was very dominant. So that leaves us with Andy and Kindle. And this matchup isn't bad for Andy at all. I think either is a viable choice. It depends on how you want to play. In some ways, it can be a little more difficult to play Kindle on this map if your opponent is very good at stalling it out. But we'll see. So, like I said, the last video was kind of focused on that all-in push and a little bit of the capture game. Here, it's going to be a little bit of a hodgepodge of themes. Going to talk about strategies with the black boat, and also kind of some unit composition stuff, and then how to take advantage of Kindle's strength on this map. So, to start out on the purple pieces on this map, so just to show kind of what's going on with the boats to start. So it's a pretty good idea to block this point here. Just always, 1, 2, 3. Sometimes people will run ahead of it, but there's strengths to different boat strategies. That's what I wanted to say. So my opponent will try to keep the boat as a blocker, whereas I block for a little bit and then I'll move it back to the port in this particular game. I also opened with a fast tank in the previous game, and I did get a free shot off, but I don't open with a tank this time. You really do want to get your infantry out quickly to start capturing properties. So there's a little mini game maybe of like trying to delay your vehicles as late as possible to get as many infantry out, because there's a lot of properties to capture. You only have 2 bases, and the income split is very high on this map. So I start off capping here and here. You can then send your third one either to the island or to start capturing this. Definitely some choices to be made. Yeah, so just moving ahead here a little bit. So I guess I chose to continue the income chain here instead of sending this one up. I think it would have been totally valid to try to go get this airport, but I wanted to start working on the middle. Yeah, we'll see where I send these guys, kind of what order I get them. Yeah, nothing too crazy. So, you know, I'm kind of forced to take this long way here, which is a little awkward. And I guess maybe I was thinking, like, I'm going to force this boat. I don't know. I could have gone here and then here, but it's kind of the same number of turns to get to the properties. Although, if you do like, move here, then that means that your next infantry is also free to move there, and they can't re-block it with the boat. Yeah, see, I prevented that boat block with that. And you can see I'm moving my boat back. I want to get it back in time to capture this port. Just kind of a personal preference thing. I think my logic was to sort of contest Andy a little bit on income, and it's not like he has a great way to remove the boat. Kindle can remove the boat from her own port with repeated urban blights. But yeah, we can try to bring in artillery over here. Yeah. But the boat is very valuable for blocking and then for creating walls in the late game if things get stalled out. So we'll see how that plays out. So my opponent still has the option of reblocking, but it looks like they're probably not going to do that. If I saw that they were going to reblock, then, you know, I could take this and then this. Okay, I guess I do one more block. I'm not sure. I guess it prevents capturing this to this, but it's not, like, super useful. I guess I thought I had time, though. There can be a lot of analysis on the capture games on this map. It's very detailed. I don't know if you can see, but the train going by is rattling my microphone. Anyway, I don't agree with this move at all. I guess it was... I'm not sure. I don't understand why they did it. I think the better move would have been to try to block my tank. Yeah, maybe block it here. It doesn't matter, though, because I believe I want to move my tank to the center anyways to contest this center tank. I don't think my opponent's going to get a lot of value out of this tank. It does sort of, like, prevent me from sniping this property, but really it's very risky to try to take your opponent's middle unless they give you a wide opening. I just really want to capture my properties on my half and look for advantages either in the capture order or on the islands. If you're not being pressured quickly, then I think it's better to take this before the comm tower. You get more income, and then your unit's in a little better position after capturing this second. So I have one tank. My opponent can start chaining tanks if they want. But so far, so good. It is nice that I've captured this center already. And so now I don't really feel pressured at all. I'm not... You know, I guess they can start trying to push into here, but we'll see. I end up taking some of these back caps a little late to try to get other things earlier. You really have to time out sort of like how many turns you have to take these before battlecopters come out. So my opponent built a medium tank here. While I do think medium tanks are very good on this map, especially for Andy, I question how good it is right here, right now. I think the center is going to be pretty locked down, so you don't really need to defend it. And, you know, this property especially gets contested, but I think you can contest these better with regular tanks and still maintain pressure on the sides, or maybe go for a quicker airport capture to start getting out copters. But I think this tank is going to slow my opponent down. And especially because of the kind of lack of tank pressure I'm facing, like there's a slow medium tank taking up a lot of their unit value. So that gives me the opportunity to build the first battlecopter. And a lot of times I could counter to the first battlecopter is your own copter, but my opponent's going to be a little late with that. So I think I'm going to get value with that copter. There's no anti-air yet. And my opponent's going to be forced to make some out of their two bases. They start blocking me a little bit here. It's kind of annoying. But yeah, anti-air build here, of course. It does prevent me from trying to snipe this guy, but I'm still in range right here, and this can't reach, so I'm gonna get a free hit, and my comm tower is ready now, just in time. Yeah, I don't agree with this block by my opponent right here, letting me get kind of a free hit. And then this is kind of a Kindle privilege. If these COs were reversed, then Andy can't really attack Kindle effectively on the city, but here I can do it. I don't know if that had a possibility of killing or not, but 1 HP tank, not very good. They can counterattack, but I'm kind of... I have a nice tank chain here. It's not going to be very profitable. So this one's just kind of hanging around. And that can kind of be the conditions for a loss in Advance Wars by Web, is having too many units not being useful. So, I built my own medium tank. You do kind of need it to contest this one. And I have no tank pressure. I move my tanks all down here. So that makes sense. And I start accumulating artillery because it can get a little stally. Oh yeah, my opponent built a bomber here. While it's cute and you can do stuff like hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, you can't even hit these in one turn. You can kind of hit all this stuff, but bomber. I need to build an anti-air. It's annoying. But I do have a black boat kind of running around doing, or excuse me, a copter running around doing what it wants. It's a nifty little trick to hide my tank here. Protecting the artillery from I don't... Nothing, I guess? Okay. Maybe just zoning out that infantry. This is a tactic you can do. It's not the most efficient, but you can transfer your tanks between fronts behind this mountain. So I'm kind of just retreating, trying to mitigate damage from the bomber. I think I'm feeling like I have to wall off a little bit here. Although, yeah, this infantry is very vulnerable. Now, if we notice, my opponent also base skipped to build the bomber, so that's also why I don't really agree with that. Okay, so yeah, so they took out this infantry here and then moved the tank on top of this city. I'm not sure what it does there. Yes, that's a lot to attack into. Yeah, so they kind of let me get that over there. And now I can push up some vehicle support because there's only an anti-air here. Again, the lack of tank support defending this island is biting my opponent. And now I have a very strong middle. I think I even got a little shot off on the medium tank there. You know, copters are so strong in this map, especially because it's a base light map. But it's pretty hard to front switch unless you're a copter. And so we had the bomber continuing to annoy me, but a bomber has to kill a lot in order to get value. Like, if you think about it, a bomber is like a counter to a Neotank. And so, because the bomber is down here, I'm just going to build my Neotank up here. I am getting a little airport Lockheed. You know, that's okay. My medium tanks can be effective here. Where the boat continuing to be a little annoying. But yeah, at this point in the game, it's probably more valuable to pull back your boat back to your own troops and then start using it as a wall. Especially so you can start walling off here, or you can make a wall here or here. Yeah, theoretically you could even make like a wall and, well, already locking doesn't make sense, but you can start airport locking with a anti-air. So I'm able to shield this capture and you know, even have some artillery backup if they decide to pot shot. They will finish off the black boat at the cost of a little bit of tempo. And here, you know, I believe that I can start attacking this tank wall. Does my opponent have vehicles? Yes, but it's all very close to my base. You see it gets really choky here really fast. So anti-air can sort of cover this tank and, you know, also this. I believe I built another anti-air so that way I could cover the copter, and then if this bombs this one, then I have this one. Yeah, bomber's safe. But let's look at the counts a little bit. So I have 44,000 worth of tanks. I have 28,000. Let's see. Just by the numbers, if I start my turn, you know, with more income, you know, I'm looking ahead. Or with more value, excuse me. Yeah, so this copter is vulnerable. Well, let me get a shot there. And so behind 2K in income, but yeah, because my opponent has this, I don't have this, I'm blocking this. But this seems like a little bit of a fragile position for my opponent, especially with the powers coming up. So my goal with the powers is to get off 2 Urban Blights to 1 Andy Super. Oh, so my opponent built a rocket. I also disagree with this choice. What is a rocket going to do? It's going to defend these properties. It might enable a push, but it's going to be difficult, especially because air units are going to be coming out of here a lot. And we know how difficult these properties are to take, especially in the late game. Like, really, the late game is going to be either centered around the islands or like an HQ push, I think. So you can still see, still trying to take over my island while defending this. But I'm able to finish this. I built a fighter. And yeah, so now my medium tank's down here. This one's up here. So both heavy tanks are up here, but it's going to be hard to capture anything on my island at this point. So I believe I'm pulling back defensively in preparation for Andy Super. I still haven't popped the trigger on Blight yet. So let's see what my opponent does. They're kind of cleaning up, yeah, some infantry a little bit, but you know, they're starting to retreat the vehicles. They're really pulling back. I'm not sure, you know, usually you want to, it's better to use Andy's superpower as an offensive ability. I guess it has a lot of counterpunch potential, but if they kill your units, you know, what are you going to repair? So now it's Blight time. I get a lot of value off of knocking the second bomber down a little bit. But let's see how the firepower increases help me out. So all these anti-airs, you know, just start barreling in and destroying the infantry, and the Urban Blight knocked this down to 7 HP, which allowed me to finish off the bomber. And I also needed the Blight to knock the bomber down in order to kill it. And it would have been great if I also had another unit to block the airport, but this is kind of the next best thing, is to block off the choke to the airport. Kind of walling in my medium tank from the bomber. You know, if the bomber can't get to it, then the terrain should be able to defend it from the battlecopters. And here I'm just, you know, playing really defensive up top. There's no reason for me to engage. I can you know, finish this down below. I have a huge unit count advantage. And so now, because of the unit count advantage that I have, this Andy superpower is not that scary. Like, okay, you're gonna go in. I have artillery. You do get to bomb the medium tank, that's nice, but the straight's gonna work out better for me. I have the anti-airs. I do kind of lack tanks to clear up these tanks, but that's okay. So make a little blocker there. Anti-air goes in. I get to kill both air units. Yeah, that's a lot of value that I just destroyed there. That's a lot of value that I just destroyed there. And suddenly, these 4 tanks without any other unit support doesn't look scary at all. And then I'm able to get up enough power to Urban Blight again. You know, knock these tanks again, knock this down, knock this down, knock this down. My opponent must not have been expecting an Urban Blight here, because that was just an insane amount of value. Yeah, so 154 down to 131. That's a whole turn worth of income. Yeah, even though my opponent's been ahead of me slightly on income this whole game, they haven't spent it very efficiently, and they haven't used their valuable pieces efficiently. And now without threat of counter super, I can just send my fighter into theirs. And so, you know, this island's looking totally won. There's no offense coming in this island. And the middle is just going to become a meat grinder. Can't even finish off that fighter. And see, I start taking their airport. And this is unrecoverable for my opponent. Stealth for good measure. We get some attempts to clean up, but it's not going to cut it. And my opponent resigns. So that's how you have it. That's kind of what Kindle wants to do, is have like this big Urban Blight turn that you use it to wall break, because otherwise it can be really difficult to break through the chokes. So hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.